Okay, thank you for joining the According to Your Faith broadcast. In our final segment of the teaching, Never Say God Doesn't Talk to Me Anymore, nor does He show Himself to me, where our foundational scriptures are found within Hebrews, the 13th chapter and the 5th verse, and also Isaiah, the 59th chapter, verses 1 through 2. We have so far covered sin acting as a barrier to prayer and also acting as a barrier to praise or thanksgiving. In this final segment, we're going to focus on sin acting as a barrier to receiving love, which we know God is love, and also sharing love, sharing God. And also we will conclude specifically by discussing or presenting what needs to happen in order to bring down that barrier, that sin barrier, so that you are fully able to realize God. I pray and believe that this is a blessed teaching, and I know it's a blessed teaching for someone who has questioned God's existence in his or her life, or whether or not God has actually walked away from you. No, He has not. No, He will not, for He has given His promise in Hebrews 13 and the 5th verse that He will never leave us nor forsake us. However, it is that sin mind that possibly exists within you that has created a barrier, giving you the sense that God is not there. Let's get past that barrier so that you'll know whose you are and that He will never leave you nor forsake you, so that you can walk in your calling with power and continue to do the things that God has already predestined you to do. All right, now let's go ahead and conclude this. Let's deal with what sin does to love. Let's look at the barrier that sin creates in terms of expressing love and displaying love. Let's first look at who and what love is. Let's look at 1 John, the 4th chapter, and verse 8. 1 John, the 4th chapter, and verse 8. Now, I'm reading from the Living Bible translation. You can read from the King James or whichever version you choose, but for these purposes, or for this purpose, I am going to read from the Living Bible translation. 1 John, the 4th chapter, and the 8th verse. Reads, "But if a person is not loving and kind, it shows that he or she does not know God, for God is love." Let me repeat that. But if a person is not loving and kind, it shows that he or she doesn't know God, for God is love. Now that statement in itself answers the question, who love is. Love is God. Okay? Now, let's turn to 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, verses 4 through 8. 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, verses 4 through 8. And I am now going to turn to my computer because I am using my favorite internet site, which is BibleGateway.com. That's my favorite site for Bible-based scripture and so forth. BibleGateway.com. And I am reading the NIV, the New International Version of 1 Corinthians 13, chapter 4 through 8, which reads, "Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, that is. It always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. However, love never fails. Love is never ending. Love is solid. Love can be trusted. Love can be depended on. Love is eternal. Love is fail-proof, because God is love.